So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video guys, I've got some custom tactics and player instructions for one of the best direct formations in FIFA 23, this being the 4-2-2-2. Now I mainly like using the 4-2-2-2 when I want to keep a similar system to the 4-2-3-1, but the one striker isn't quite cutting it and we need that extra player to support. So that's when I mainly use this formation. I'd also just like to quickly apologise that there will be no gameplay in this video. I did record some games with this formation earlier. It was my first ones with Tim Cahill, but my recording file actually corrupted and every bit of video was all choppy, so I do apologise, but I hope you guys do understand. But with all that aside guys, let's get right into the video. It's time for footy, so if you guys want any FIFA 23 coins, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. Alright then guys, so starting off with the defensive style for the custom tactics, I like to have this on balance. This is the same as every other formation, and the reason we do this is because balance does give you the best control over your defense. So when you want to be aggressive and quickly win the ball back, you can press your opponent, and then when you want to drop back, be a little bit more passive, you can also do that. So balance does give you the control and balance that the other settings don't give you, and it does make defending a lot easier in my opinion. Now moving on to the width guys for the defense, there's not really a specific number you need to use, but I like to have this at least below 50 and have it on 41 at the moment. The reason for this is so we can primarily defend in a nice narrow and compact shape, which will stop our opponents being able to just run right through the middle of us. It stops us leaving so many gaps and being exposed. The main reason we don't lower the width anymore though is because it's still important to maintain some of the natural width of the formation to cover the wing in case an opponent tries a wider attack. So we want to be narrow but not too narrow in our approach. Moving on to the depth guys, this doesn't really matter all that much in FIFA 23 at the best of times. The only time it really matters is when, let's say you're on the attack and then you lose the ball. That's the main position that the depth will affect you. It's where your defensive line is the moment you lose that ball, because the thing with this game is every time you start defending and your opponent gets in your half, everyone will automatically return to that drop back state. So there's no real avoiding it, but I like to have this on 60. So when I just lose the ball, I can quickly regain the possession because my team's not automatically really far back. Moving on to build-up play guys, I have this on balanced. This is because I find it to be the most consistent and varied form of build-up. When you have this on balance, you can pick and choose when and where you use different styles of build-up, for example slow build-up or fast build-up, so you have the option to choose when you want to use each form of build-up. But for example, if you use something like fast build-up, you always have to play quickly. You can't randomly decide to slow down. The same way if you use slow build up, you always have to play slowly. You can't randomly decide to speed up. So balanced allows you to be more varied in your build up. Moving on to chance creation guys, I think it's very important to have this on direct passing. Now what direct passing does is your attacking players, they will back up against the opposition defenders, so it makes it very easy to do the 1 versus 1 plays and isolate that like specific player. It makes it very easy to create chances. Players will also make those extra movements into the penalty box so you can get off the extra pass to guarantee those goals. So direct passing is an absolute must in my opinion. Now moving on to the attacking width guys, because this is a narrow formation, we don't want to have the width crazy high because it will turn this formation into more like a 4-2-4, and obviously if we wanted that we would just use the 4-2-4, so we want to keep the width nice and low or ish. The reason for this is so our attack is nice, narrow and compact, but at the same time we don't want to have the width really low, otherwise your players are just way too close together and they're almost like sat on top of each other, and it's actually more difficult to create any chances. As for players in box guys, I have this on 3. This is so we can get a few players into the box to finish off those chances, but we don't overcommit everybody on the team into the box, so if we lose the ball we won't get counter-attacked as much. As for corners and free kicks guys, I have these both on 1 because there is a set piece routine that I use which requires these to be on 1. There is a link to that in the top right hand corner of the screen. Now moving on to the player instructions guys, on my more out and out striker, the less technical technical player, I have him on stay central and get in behind. We have him on stay central because we don't want him drifting off into those wider areas. I know it's a narrow formation, but those cams do cover more wide areas. So you don't need the striker to drift out wide. We want him to stay central so we always know where he is, so we can rely upon him. We also have him on getting behind because, like I said, this is like my more out and out striker. He's a lengthy player, so he's really good at making those runs. So getting behind means he's always going to make those incisive runs behind the defensive line to get as many chances as possible. Now on my right striker, the one that's got a bit more creative ability, maybe a bit more agile, a bit better on the ball, we have him on stay central for the exact same reasons as the left striker. We don't want him drifting out wide. We need him to be in the central position so he's always in the correct position. But the difference is we have this player on mixed attack as opposed to get in behind. We have him on mixed attack because he has a bit more creative ability. We don't just want this player to run in behind all the time. We want to utilize his ability on the ball, so sometimes we want him to drop a little bit deeper and make more versatile movements. So we have one player that's always getting in behind and one player that is a bit more creative, a bit more versatile. Now, moving on to both the ram and the lamb, or the left cam and right cam, whatever you want to call them, the most important instruction you can have on them is come back on defense. Now, the reason we do this is because come back on defense ensures that this team will defend in a 4-4-2 shape. The 4-4-2 is very good defensively because you have really good coverage of both the wide areas and the narrow areas. If you have these players on basic defensive support, these players can get a little bit lost, a little bit lazy, and leave a lot of gaps when we don't have the ball. So come back on defense means they will come back to defend as a left mid and right mid, meaning we're good in the attack and the defense. I also have these players on get into the box for cross because I don't want them to be hesitant to get into the penalty area when there is an opportunity to do so. If you have them on balanced crossing runs, these players can be quite static and not get involved all that much. Now, moving on to the left CDM, my more defensive-minded CDM, I have him on stay back while attacking, cut passing lanes, and cover centre. We have him on stay back while attacking because he's a more defensive-minded player. We don't want him flying forward, so it makes sense to keep him back. We have him on cut passing lanes, so he's always looking to intercept those dangerous passes and regain possession for us to help us kickstart more attacks. And then we also have him on cover centre, so he does defend those central areas because we don't need this player to cover the wing. We've already got enough players to do that. Moving on to the right CDM, guys, I use like a more box-to-box style player, somebody that will attack and defend, basically do a bit of everything. So I like to leave him on the default settings so we don't restrict him all that much. We kind of just let him do his own thing. The only important thing is that we have him on cover center, so he does defend those central areas. Now, moving on to the left back, guys, like I use a more attacking minded fullback here, and what I do is I put him on balanced attack and overlap. Now, the reason I do this is because the 4-2-2, although it's one of the wider narrow formations, if that makes sense, it's still quite a narrow formation. So what you'll often find is when you're playing narrow all the time, it can become very predictable for your opponent and you can often get boxed in, and it's not always the most fun time. So by putting one of the fullbacks on balanced overlap, you always give yourself a wider option, which will help you relieve pressure and give you more angles to attack from. So it's actually very, very useful to have one fullback on balanced overlap. Now for the other fullback, I have him on stay back and overlap. We have him on stay back, so we always have at least 3 back at a time, so we're really nice and defensively solid. And then we also have him on overlap, so when we do send him on a run forward, he'll make the overlapping runs to add extra width, a bit like the left back. As for the centre backs and the keeper, guys, I just leave them alone and I do not touch them. You can put the keeper on comes for crosses and sweeper keeper if you like, but you know, I don't really see the point. But yeah, they are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-2-2. If you have enjoyed or found it useful, please be sure to drop this a like, sub to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to turn on notifications. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.